Welcome to a muzzled chat. Folks, we got another warrior, hero, a soldier, and he's here today to shine the light on some profound truths. Billy has served in the Navy for over 24 years now. He's married with 4 kids, so he's a father, and I like him. He doesn't mess around. John connected us, in fact, and Billy's just like, let's go. So here we are. And I just want to praise him because even with a family, he's showing up on behalf of all of us, even as a soldier. He's clearly a patriot. He cares about America. He cares about our future. He clearly has a big heart and he clearly loves this country. So with that, I welcome Billy to a Muzzle Chat podcast. How are you doing today, Billy?
Good, James. Thanks for having me.
It's my honor, my pleasure. So let's just dive in and get to know you a little bit. What would you like the listeners to know? You can go as far back, touch on why you joined the Navy, or kind of start wherever you feel is
Yeah, I mean, we could
important.
start there. I mean, I joined the Navy in February 2000 before 9/11 popped off. The reason why I joined, I just needed something to do. Found the Navy. My father had a friend who was a retired SEAL, and that
Wow.
kind of piqued my interest and went in on those programs. It didn't work out, but either way, it worked out for the better because it got me out of the rut I was in a teenager and all the trouble. So joined the Navy, became a gunner's mate, worked at the SEAL teams as support over there for about 7.5 years, Riverine Squadron Security Forces. Picked up a commissioning one after I was a chief gunner's mate at SEAL Team One, made officer, then went out to the fleet for a little bit, did some work on the ships, went back to Guam, and then back to some more ships, and then that's about the time in 2021 when all this started popping off. When I came back from overseas, and they started having all the mandates and everything. We all started trying to question what's going on in 2020 and 2021. And we saw the writing on the wall that they were clearly going to make those shots mandatory, especially if anybody knew the anthrax history and how that all played out in the late 90s and early 2000s. Very similar, almost identical playbook.
Right.
It's the same thing. Went to training in Virginia summer 21, checked into USS Bunker Hill in September 21, and I wasn't even there 90 days. They knew exactly because I let them know ahead of time when I got there that I'm not going to be complying with anything COVID related, which I did
Yeah.
not. And about the
Wow.
80 something day there, the testing order came out for all the quote unquote unvaxxed service members that you were going to test 1 to 2 times a week, which was clearly illegal, discriminatory, and unethical as well. Because all the products were EUA, emergency use authorization, just like the injection, same as the mask,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So EUA products as a whole cannot be forced on anybody, and we all have the right, the option to accept or refuse. So I took the option. I chose to refuse, explained it legally why, and they didn't like it. So that night around 1900, I got a text from my combat systems officer, the department head. He said, "You have captain's mass tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Get your blues ready." You got to mind you, I had 22 years at that point. I've never been in trouble. I have a flawless career. So I was
Wow.
going into captain's mass, waiting for this day, like many of us were. We kind of knew these days were coming. Went into captain's mass. I actually denied it. I had the legal right to deny it based off of the ship's operational posture and request a court martial. But like what we ended up finding out months later is that countless senior enlisted and officers requested court martials as it's our legal right, and we were all denied. Matter of fact, the only one that I know that
Wow.
went to a court martial is Mark Bashaw, the only one. The rest of us all requested it because we wanted our due process, and they denied it. So I got forced into a captain's mass. And for people that aren't Navy or any other branch out there, it's just an NJP, a non-judicial punishment, an Article
Wow.
15, right? You go stand in front of the CO, and they read you your rights and you fill out all the paperwork. And I got charged with an Article 92, failure to follow lawful order. I got detached for cause, which I had to be escorted off the ship to clear out by the master at arms, as well as a letter of reprimand for refusing to test. And we weren't even on the injection order yet. That was just all for refusing to test.
Unbelievable. That's so criminal. I cannot believe, once again, to the listeners, like, we thought we had it bad. It is gut wrenching to hear time and time again. I mean, just to hear from another, it's just validating the tyranny that has infiltrated our armed forces. It blows my mind. And who are we as a country without a strong military actually fulfilling the oath?
Yeah, I mean they kicked out tens of thousands just from that. They like to report 8,000, but that's just that they just use that as a political talking point. It's tens into the hundreds of thousands easily because they're not getting all the people that took the plea bargains. I know countless people that took plea bargains, all the people that took
Mm,
early outs, or all the people that resigned. That
wow, that's a good
those
point.
aren't captured in that 8,000 at all. And
Right.
then you're not they're not counting all the people that were quietly medically discharged from all the serious injuries, nor are they
Ooh,
counting all the deaths from these COVID
right.
shots. Right.
Right.
So it's easily in the hundreds of thousands
Wow. That
or
makes
over
sense.
100,000. We throw rough numbers around, but it's not hard to figure out
Right.
when everyone that we know in our groups are tens of thousands, and we all know others that were either injured, something happened to them, they got forced out, they resigned. The numbers are magnitudes higher than what they report with that 8,600 or 8,700.
Unbelievable. So from there, oh my gosh, how much more ridiculous did this circus end up for you? I'm so sorry
Well, yeah,
to
even
hear.
more, right? We all had
Uh,
to go through it. So they moved into the phase where they stood up these COVID cells inside the military to
yeah.
work on people that had that were punitively charged for denying one measure of COVID or another. They set up
Wow.
specific cells inside the military to process us and to expedite the out processing as fast as humanly possible. They wanted us all gone as fast as possible. So, which they did. They moved. I immediately got letters that triggered, as an officer, that triggered a board of inquiry, which for enlisted, it would be, it's the same thing as an administrative separation board. Anybody over 6 years with the COVID that denied the COVID policies was warranted a board, right? So you have one more chance to go sit in front of a panel of three senior officers. For enlisted, you get some senior enlisted in there and to plead your case and to say how you were wrong. So that triggered a BOI for me. I got the letter and it said other than honorable discharge. And for people that don't know the discharges, they gave out a lot of general and still gave out some honorable. But on OTH, when you're getting that low and closer to a dishonorable, the OTH on the charts, I lose all my benefits. I would have
Oh
lost my
my gosh.
retirement, VA, everything. And there's many that were on the chopping block like this. So
Right.
luckily, some on that 6 month phase, because I didn't go until that happened. December 1st was a Cavs mass, and then May 20th was my board of inquiry. In between then, I got linked up with Truth for Health Foundation with Doc Fleet and I think Mark Bashad, a few others linked us all up in there, and they actually paid for all of our legal fees. It was good, and I got
Wow.
linked up with
That's a
Attorney
blessing.
Davis Younts,
Okay.
and he was awesome too. So he was actually my lawyer. He was a reserve commander. I mean, sorry, lieutenant colonel in the Air Force who was fighting this as well on the inside. He was very close to retirement, so he already knew the ins and outs when he came and represented me as a civilian lawyer here in San Diego. So we ended up 10 hours in the board though. We laid down hundreds of pages of documentation and evidence that the shots that they said were legal and licensed were never available. It was a bait and switch. We
Right.
touched on the masking and the testing only maybe a few percent, but it wasn't the prime topic in there. It was mainly the shot. And we
Yeah.
took a board chairman, a Navy captain, '06, with 39 years of service, who teaches science at SDSU over here,
Oh wow.
and who was clearly on the other end of the spectrum. Take your vaccines, put your mask on. We
Right.
had him fired up during that board several times because he was so pissed that he was never shown this information that we showed him that our
Oh
senior
wow.
leaders had and knew but ignored. And by the
Wow.
end of it, they all decided to retain and rule the vaccine mandate unlawful. So
Wow. You had that impact.
yeah. But the problem is it's a big win and it was huge within the community. But the problem was that the flip side, it's not a hard legal precedent because it wasn't a court martial. It wasn't in a court of law. It's a soft
Right.
legal precedent. And sadly enough, that case was taken to many other boards after as an example.
Right.
But for some reason, the board members for all those other service members didn't seem to care. And
Because,
they
dude,
still
well,
kicked them out.
it could have led to liability, accountability. It, duh, right? Like they can't have that. It's unbelievable in this world as to how no one can do no wrong. In hindsight, right? Now, there's more breaking bombshell news that Dr. Francis Boyle is saying and calling this biological weapons anti-terrorism act and is calling them weapons of mass destruction. I'm at a loss for words.
No, they are 100%. They are bioweapons. They are weapons of mass destruction. They destroyed millions upon millions of lives just in this country alone.
They were
Not only physically but morally, right? Think of all the
Right.
people that knew that it was going to destroy them and just decided to comply anyway. That destroys your soul, all right there, because you're complying with a lie. They had to comply because they wanted to keep their job, or at least they thought.
Right.
And that crushes you when you know it's something that dangerous or that much of a lie that you still comply with it. That hurts you. That hurts you. That attacks people's souls, man.
You're right. How did they get it so wrong? We gotta up the awareness on all of this and get the listeners, get Americans to realize that we are the government. We are the body of this country, and we need to clean house. We need, yes, accountability, but also because your win only impacted small group, right? Very small group. It didn't. So many others got the boot, lost everything. It's been so damaging.
Yeah, there's another one for your listeners too. Your listeners might know, but there's still a lot of people out there, right, that got kicked out. And there's a lot of people that think because the NDA ruling a couple years ago where they nixed the COVID shot mandate when Congress put out, I think it was 2022 NDA, the National Defense Authorization Act, and they said no more COVID injections required. Well, nothing has been written to date, even with the proposed one that they just passed the other day. Nothing is anything in there to restore any of this. So no one gets to come back in. Yeah, there's been some letters sent out with the Army and a few other places where they're begging them to come back if they kicked them out. But these people aren't going back in. Obviously, they know better than that because nothing's been fixed. There's been no, like you said, there's been no accountability. There's been no restoration. There's not even acknowledgement of these harms. So why would they come back in?
Should I yell for a second? Because what are Americans doing at this point? Literally, it's idiocracy. You cannot just go on with our selfish little lives and not acknowledge and address what just took place. Tyranny doesn't end there. It's going to continue. It's going to perpetually get worse as you can see the decay around us. A lot of individuals are just banking, rolling the dice on someone to ride in on a white horse and putting all that weight on, let's just say Trump's shoulders or something. But the reality of it is we can't idly sit by and bank on any one individual. We need to assemble and become the freaking solution ourselves for our own children and for our futures. I mean, they're allowing an invasion of our freaking country, and it boils my blood because breaking yesterday, another young girl raped and murdered by a freaking criminal that crossed into our country illegally. When is enough going to be enough? When your daughter is raped and murdered? Come on, folks. We got to take this serious. And I know I'm just yelling. I know people are out there trying. They're like, well, how? What can we do? Well, this is it right here. You send this far and wide. You thumbs up this very episode. You comment. You get engaged. Billy here has some calls to action. He's actually leading by example. Let's go ahead and dive into this cease and desist letter here in a minute. But it's just there's so many calls to action. We need to stop supporting our enemy with our dollar bills. So you need to check out our affiliation with Patriot Mobile. Why fund BlackRock and the rulers and continue to fund them ruling over us? You need to look into income tax has been criminalized and educate yourself and get to freedomlawschool.org. There's so many things, and this is a wartime, and we need to take that serious. It's just fifth generation warfare. It blows my mind as to how so many Americans and other individuals across the world are not acknowledging this because it's just not traditional warfare. Bombs and missiles and bullets aren't getting flung by them, but there are many angles of attack that are just as threatening. I digress. Let's just dive in. I mean, it's a lot of the things the listeners have heard from me in a lot of these
Yeah,
episodes,
it's
unless they're tuning
everything you're
in
saying.
for.
It's subversion on multiple levels, right? Yeah, you're right.
Yes,
They've destroyed the military and partially destroyed this nation without firing a single munition at us. No
right.
missiles, no bombs yet, at least. No nobody running around the streets in militias and dropping people with rifles. They don't have to. They got us all divided. The divide and conquer.
The psychological warfare.
It works. It is working to this
Yeah,
minute.
yeah, 100%. And dare I say, a lot of individuals have been hacked. It's no secret. Klaus Schwab and Harari, his puppet, has said, quote, "We are now humans, hackable animals." I've mentioned it before, but I didn't ever add up to this point the animals. But he said, we're hackable. Humans are hackable animals. They view us less than cattle, folks. So for some that aren't grasping it and they just want to run on talking points and call this and that and conspiracy this, they're hacked. Clearly, that is proof of a hacked individual. Is there a way of bringing them back? Possibly. I'm sure potentially with time. But for a lot of those that are riding that gray area, just kind of having the mentality of, well, what difference can I make? And I got all these other responsibilities. It's like, I'm sorry, in a wartime, you're not afforded the excuses to not engage. You're just not. That also, in my eyes, becomes proof as to how they have demoralized us and diminished our resilience, our abilities, our thinking, and everything. And you can see now, dating back pre-pandemic and everything, as to how. Ask yourself, why so many ingredients illegal in foods here in this country, illegal in so many other freaking countries? They've been dumbing us down intentionally for a long time. So we've been poisoned to where we're not even making these connections. We're too sickly, even though people may claim they're fine, but it's proof, because no one in their right mind would idly sit by and not acknowledge and do their part, right? That's proof to me. That's why we heavily do calls to action at any point this is challenging, and we're not trying every day to do more and more. Then we must up our health, get selfish a little bit, focus on upping your bandwidth, your health, and detoxifying the body, and focus on it starts with what you put in your mouth, from water, food, all those things. But I digress.
Now you remind me real quick. So when I tell
Yeah,
people the story out and about of all this, and many others in our situation do it too, and you tell them what you went through and you stood your ground and you're willing to give everything up, and then
yeah.
they stare at you and their response is always, "I had to take the shot or I would have lost my job." And it's like, did you not just hear my story? Did you not just hear? And it's back to the, like
Wow.
you said, they give you like that fluoride stare, and then
Didn't
that's
even
your
make
initial response. It's like, I don't know if you're trying to prove something to me, which you don't have to. We're just
right.
talking, but it's clearly you didn't listen to the story I just told you. It's like,
It didn't absorb it. It didn't connect. That
yeah.
becomes more proof. Unbelievable, Billy. But the reality of it is that we kind of talked pre-show. We can't just sit idly by, right? And whether we right the ship or not is irrelevant. We just got to do our part. And I know for me, there's a lot of things that tear me up and boil my blood, because I hate evil that bad. I just don't like to see, especially women and children, needlessly suffering. So I keep resorting to the Bible, God's plan for us, and this roadmap, and his love. And somehow, amongst this wartime, amongst all the darkness, I have peace. I do have happiness. I get enjoyment showing up and doing whatever impact I can have. And that, it's giving me more fulfillment, as though I'm living out my purpose. So there might be some people out there. I don't know if this is resonating with you, where you have some guilt or worry and just all these. Then that's a great first step, but also doing what you can, obviously, in a selfless nature on behalf of everyone else. Also, there comes great blessing. All right, cease and desist letter. Do you want to read some of that off?
Yeah, I can read it. Yeah, so I submitted back on what you said about people not knowing what to do, and we've kind of all
Yes.
gone through this the last few years, right? Learning
Yes.
all of the administrative avenues that is available to us, whether in the military or civilian, Congress, military senior officers. I've gone through this, and I'm still learning, right? And I've gone through, and that's why Mark Bashaw helped me write this cease and desist letter and understanding how to properly assign it to them and call them out. It's the same with writing official affidavits and our stories and putting that down, which we're all getting better at. And that's things that people need to look into. Write these cease and desist letters, follow up with them, demand answers, and then show up at their door. And then obviously that it needs to be in more numbers too. But yeah, so I sent out a cease and desist letter to the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, just outlining his criminal activity. It's only a page and a half, but I did that at the beginning of April.
Okay.
And it's not just him. I ended it with speaking to everything else we've already been talking about. Congress has had all the evidence, but
Yeah.
I'll just talk COVID right now. They've had all the evidence just from thousands of service members alone. I can't even imagine how many civilians have attempted
Right.
to shove this in their faces. And what
Right.
have they done? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They run that COVID subselect committee, which is nothing but showboating and political theater.
Right.
Nothing
Yes.
has come of it. Nothing's going to come out of it. Maybe they'll use Fauci as a scapegoat when there's thousands of others that should be in prison at a
Yes.
bare minimum
Yep.
for life.
Right.
But so I just keep running like you do. I run around and I'm like, what else can we do next? This is not right. There's got to be something. So we keep moving I keep finding the next level. And it was through these letters. I started writing letters to the American people about what's going on in the Middle East right now, and then trying to join together the military accountability piece. Because if we're going to say scream military accountability for the COVID crimes, well, war crimes should be fitting in there as well. And we are 100% guilty in horrific war crimes right now, which we'll get into after. But I put
Right.
all that in the cease and desist letter. I put 5 topics in there about accountability, lack of accountability for the COVID crimes,
Okay.
lack of accountability for the senior officers in there. I talked
Yeah.
about the pro-Israel lobby and the power it has over our foreign policy, as
Wow.
well as the Palestinian crisis. And I wrapped that up in about 5 paragraphs. And I ended with Congress has had all this evidence for several years and
Yeah.
have chose to do nothing through their action or inaction. They're all guilty of it. I'm sorry. Any one of them
Wow.
that thinks that they might be good or not, they've all had it.
Right.
Anybody could name any one of them right now, and someone that I know or in our groups has worked with them extensively for years and has basically done their job for them. And I mean thousands of pages. I've done it myself with Issa because his
Yeah.
office is 5 minutes from my house. So I did it for years. Did everything in there, going in there twice, 3 times a week in uniform, sitting down with them, laying this out for almost 2 years. Nothing.
Wow.
None of them do anything anywhere. And they all have it. So they're all just showboating up there and acting like someone's going to get all it is dragging us along, thinking again, like you pointed out, that there's no savior. There's no one coming to fix this. It's us. And they keep dragging us along in the psyop day after day, month after month, year after year, saying,
Mm.
we got them. And they put them up on stage and everyone's like, oh, we owned them. Well, you didn't own anybody because they're walking back home collecting their $500,000 paychecks still, or their millions in royalties from these
Right.
vaccines that killed millions, right? So no one's winning or owning anybody. Let's be real
Wow.
about it. Like
Wow.
until people assemble in mass and hold their politicians truly accountable, nothing's going
Yeah.
to change.
Clean house. Time to clean house.
And
Well,
yeah,
is there
makes
a
sense. Yeah,
way,
you know what I mean.
listeners? Yeah. Is there a way we could even access like your cease and desist or support what you've done there, or use that as an example?
Yeah, right now
Or
it's only one news station picked it up. That's freedomfighter1776.com. You can go on there. You can
it's
find the cease and
amazing.
desist letter. Where it's titled, active duty Navy lieutenant writes cease and desist letter against the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. So you can find it on Freedom Fighter 1776. None of the other news outlets wanted to touch it. In my opinion on why they wouldn't touch it is because of the fifth piece where I spoke about the Palestinian genocide and the power of the pro-Israel lobbies. The other four topics they're aligned with, but most of these outlets, if it has anything to do against Israel, they will not touch it. And they will stay far away from it for many
I
reasons.
wonder why that is. Now, I know you've done your homework, and I've grown also pretty tiresome as to this blind allegiance to Israel and things. Now, I've dove into a lot of it. You can't help but not to an extent, especially when you see thousands upon thousands of women, innocent women and children, essentially genocided. So it's important, like it becomes difficult because we know the corrupt, well, we should know, and I think the listeners here pretty much know the corruption so rampant. And it becomes very hard to decipher. Now, that's where God also comes into play here. He helps us discern, right? He helps us kind of go into what matters, what's important, really, if you're really tuning in. But then again, so many Christian churches, for whatever reason, there's just this blind allegiance, and it's nothing biblical. It's being used, just smoke and mirrors, getting people distracted. There's just so much going on. That's where I'm like, we need to fix the corruption here. Obviously, then it can lead to clarity on the world stage.
There's a lot to hit there with what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's start with right. So we have COVID crimes. Let's go on the war crimes. So I don't, at this point, I don't care what anybody says anymore. The amount of studying and I've done my due diligence in reading and writing, whether it's biblically or historically, on what's going on over there right now. For the first time in human history, a genocide, a horrific genocide, is being live streamed around the clock. Thousands of hours of video evidence just from October alone. And we're at reports now that over 70,000 tons of bombs have been dropped on Gaza, right? For people that don't know, Gaza holds 2.3 million people ish. 1.1 million of them are children. Of that 1.1 million, about 500,000 are under 5. That amount of people are compacted into a city, a literal city that's compounded in by walls that we can't have, but we send all our money for Israel and Ukraine's border.
Right.
But they are locked in. Israelis control everything that goes in and out. They've been under a sea, air, and land blockade for the last 20 years. They can't go anywhere, do anything without the Israelis telling them yes or no. So back to that, the 2.3 million locked in a 25-mile strip, anywhere from 3 to 6 miles wide, depending on where you're at. That's it. Not very big. I attribute it to about the size of North County, San Diego here. And then you take all the residents of San Diego County, which is a little over 2 million, and you shove them into North County, and then you drop over 70,000 tons of bombs on them for 8 months. And anybody that wants to spew, those Hamas is reporting those numbers and all the political talking points and all the so-called anti-Semitic stuff that our media screams, that's BS. I mean, this is why I get pissed, because I'm a weapons officer. I specialize in ordnance and weapons and tactics, large naval gunnery, as well as small arms. So anybody with a brain or that understands that, when we're talking 500, 1,000, 2,000 pound bombs, and then we multiply that by 70,000 plus dropped on a compacted city like that with 2.3 million people, it doesn't take very much brain power to figure out that there's going to be an insane level of civilian casualties.
Right.
Or the other talking points, Hamas is using them as human shield. Sure. It's all propaganda spread through our media, mostly Western civilization, even though most of the world's awake to it at this point. So they can carry out the mass murder of tens of thousands. It's in the hundreds of thousands now. I don't care what anybody says. The official numbers are nothing if you compare the amount of munitions they dropped, and then you watch the drone footage that's constantly flown over. The place is completely decimated. And if anybody understands Hiroshima, Nagasaki, or Dresden, we have that combined. We have multiple times higher of munitions and power dropped on the Palestinians. It's insanity.
Yeah. Well, it's heartbreaking because once again, did we learn nothing from the pandemic? Haven't we learned
Doesn't
anything
seem
from, I
like
mean,
it.
there's so many different like situations we could bring up and talk about where individuals essentially are just taking the talking points. That's where it's relationship with God over any religion, because it's easy to just, okay, blind trust, maybe even false idolship to an extent, in a pastor that's now leading, that's twisting biblical things to just blind allegiance. It's, we got to do our research. That's what it boils down to. And we got to do better at vetting our information as well. At the point you haven't, because I've been brought to tears as a man. I mean, who wouldn't? Man, woman, and who wouldn't, seeing the actual footage and the children being pulled out of this rubble, the women being pulled, and even the men pulled out of this rubble. It's just like, these are innocent civilians. These aren't freaking, whatever they
Yeah,
want to
they're
label
not
it.
they're not military. They're all most
Right.
99% of the people that you're seeing dead are just normal civilians trying to live in a very shitty situation that they've been forced into decades ago.
You just see that it weighs on your heart, and you're just like, you know what? And that's why it boils back to me to like, we got to rule out the corruption here and no blind allegiance anywhere. We got to stop this. We know the military industrial complex and how they're enriching themselves.
But,
There's so much dirty money involved in these
well, that's the thing.
endless
So I've
wars.
had a lot of people try to tell me, well, I don't care. It's in the Middle East. It has nothing to do with me. Well, it's the exact opposite. I mean, if anybody's paying attention to our Congress and our Senate that are constantly bending to the knee to the pro-Israel lobbies and anything to do with Israel, and you can go on social media and watch them do it every day, hundreds of them every single day. They bend the knee to this nation, and they put them above America, through organizations like AIPAC, AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee, which who
Yeah.
has completely captured our foreign policy.
Right.
And you take the capture of our foreign policy, and then you look at what we've been doing in the Middle East the last 30 years, and you look at all the official reports over the last 30 years and the millions that we've slaughtered alone in the last 30 years, not even with what's going on right now in
Wow.
Gaza. Millions of innocents in Iraq, in Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, all
Right.
of them. We have bombed them all to death, and we wonder why they're screaming death to America. I mean,
Right.
once again, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. We're bombing and destroying everything, their livelihoods, their children, their women. No wonder why they hate us, and people need to understand that. And all those
Yes.
wars, most people will admit that they've been based on lies. It's not a conspiracy theory. You can,
Right.
all those wars, once again, we get forced into them, a bunch of psyops, propaganda. We go down range, we kill a bunch of people, and then,
Yeah.
oh, it was another lie. Oh, we really didn't have WMD. Oh, we really didn't have anthrax. Oh, well, they really didn't do 9/11, right out of their own mouths. And then, so I don't know why people think they're not lying about what's going on in Israel and Gaza right now. They've lied about everything else.
That's why I view the pandemic as a smoking gun, because it's
Because of
hard
what
to
they just did
relate.
to us.
Yeah, because it's hard to relate for those that are like, well, it's not impacting me type of thing over there. Well, you just captured something. The same talking heads, the same news organizations and media outlets and social media platforms and everything that have been controlling narratives for a very freaking long time. I mean, even the Rockefellers invested billions over 100 years ago in our education system alone, quote, to create a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. Okay, so
Right.
we haven't been free in our own minds. We've been drinking this up. Oh yeah, and then 9/11, and we're just drinking it up, and we're not doing our due diligence, and we're supporting the most evil. We are an occupied country, and it's no longer like our constitution is non-existent. Democracy, as they say, it's dead. Our republic is dead. We could revive it. It is up to us, we the people. No one else is going to come in. So the pandemic is a great blessing if people really absorb and capture, and then they're like, wow. And it should lead them in an information age to better sourcing, and then they no longer will be drinking the Kool-Aid as to the, their propaganda, as you were just pointing out, regarding all these other things happening on the world stage.
Correct. And then you connect the dots, like you just said, with what they just did with the biggest psyop in human history, one of the biggest with the
Yeah.
COVID crimes. Um, and then you go back to these pro-Israel lobbies, right? And I'm going to say this as I'm still active duty, and it's not easy for people that are active duty to turn around and say, "Wait a minute, what have I really been serving the last 24 years? Whose
Mm,
interests have I been
mm,
serving?" Right? I know how
wow.
to separate the blessings that I've received, right? The people I've met, the places I've been, the experiences, the training, all of that. I can't change that for the world. I would never give that up. That I understand. And I understand serving in a just military that is fighting for just causes. But
Right.
what people need to separate is understand that we need to understand that most of the wars that we've been thrusted into in our age groups, and especially the last 30 years,
Yes.
and we could go further back too, but I'll just stick to the Middle East in the last 30 years,
Yeah.
literally endless lies and propaganda to feed the war machine. And
Right.
it also feeds Israel's greater expansionist dream. If anybody looks up the Greater Israel Project and the
Mm,
countries that we have decimated around them at
yes.
expense of our blood, rivers of American blood, and our money, our labor, our bombs to go over there and destroy all these countries around them. And they continue to perpetuate the lie that they're the victim or they're
Yes.
the only victim. Once again, it doesn't take a genius to figure out why do
Right.
we keep going over there? Why do we keep saying it? I mean, I'm going to quote Trump. I just saw him say it. He just said, "We don't need to be in the Middle East anymore. The only reason we're over there is to protect Israel." Well,
Wow.
is this the United States of America, or is this the divided communist states of Israel? Because it seems to
Right.
be the latter lately.
Right.
And it's just out of control. And until people understand the power of these pro-Israel lobbies and the capturing
Yes.
of they have over our foreign policy and why
Yes.
we've been going to these wars, nothing's going to change again. They have to connect these dots.
Billy, that is very well said. You have clearly done your homework. And I know pre-show you were saying, "Oh, I got a lot of information, got a lot of links." So for any of those that want to do more of their research and due diligence, it's right here. We're going to add them in the description below. Be sure to check that out. Get some understanding. And if anything, as we dive into this information, it really should light that fire we need under everyone to essentially assemble and be the solution we all desperately need.
Yeah,
Wow.
agree. If we're going to touch on a little bit of the biblical aspect
Yeah.
with Christians, that this is kind of what led me down this path too the last 9 months because when I started speaking to Christians or seeing the churches talk about this, and I try to say, well,
Yeah.
wait a second, you guys don't really understand what this country is about and what the history is going on. And they think everything started October 7th and don't really understand that it started at least 76 years ago, right? In 1948, you could look up the Nakba and understand what that was and when they took over. And we could go back even further to 1917 and the Balfour Declaration. We could go to the 1890s and Herzl and the Zionist organizations and the Zionist Congress that they started. And they've been
Right.
eyeing Palestine for a very long time. Why? Because it's the center of the world. It's where all the trade routes are. It is a very powerful point, and this is where they want their Jewish utopia to run out of, and their one world order headquarters.
Mm.
Anybody that starts looking up any of those words that I'm talking about will find people that can lay out the evidence clear as
Right.
day. I will give some of those
Clear as
links
day.
to everyone at the end, and
Okay.
I know what I'm saying is a broad stroke, but so some of the things that
Yes.
also, so I know I talked to you about this pre-show, but so we watch the left, right? The left, liberals, whatever we want to call them, kind of deny
Yeah.
all the COVID crimes and tell you to put your mask on and trust the science for years. While the
Right.
conservative Christians and the rights were saying, stop censoring me. This is BS. There's people dying.
Yeah.
This is bad. People jobs. Well, when this popped off in Israel on October 7th, that completely flipped. Now you have
Right.
Christians, Republicans, and the so-called right
Wow.
demanding censorship of the left because they're calling out people that are being harmed. Once again, humans, whether it's an injection that's going to cause your brain to explode or have a heart attack or a bomb dropping on your head, it's still all horrible. It's all bad, right? We know it's human suffering in one form or another. So now you have them
Yeah.
censoring the left, doing the same thing that they cried about for 3 years.
Wow.
It just, they're not connecting the dots. And then when I try to have these conversations with Christians, whether it's in person with neighbors, churches, family members, at the very beginning, the vile hatred that spewed out of their mouths is insane. And it just made me sit back again and go, something's not right here. And then
Right.
and the more I dug back into the Bible, the more I realized that the verses that are being used to carry out these so-called holy wars,
Hmm.
they're misusing and abusing the word of God. It's that simple. And
Right.
they're defying the actual words of Christ. It's insanity.
Yeah, censorship is just a dangerous thing. Anyone trying to enact that is going to be on the wrong side of history every time. Every time. Free speech is just so freaking important. And it becomes very alarming and red flags. I mean, we got to acknowledge it when people speak out on a lot of what you're touching on right here. And even in a loving, caring way. That's where to touch on intention is an important thing. It's not like we're trying to demonize the Jews or anything along those lines. It's literally boiling down to exposing the corruption and stopping needless suffering.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. I'll throw out another
it's what,
connection for your
yeah,
audience. So, like the right, the Christian pro Israel right, red Republicans, they all seem to know the Rothschilds. Everyone knows that name. You know
right.
the name. We know the name. We know they're not good. We know they control the world's banking industry. They've cornered the world's gold market. They have their hands in just about everything. They all seem to know that. But when it comes to Israel, they don't want to connect the dot. They actually refuse to connect the dot. The Rothschilds created the modern day nation of Israel. The
Oh,
Rothschilds are Satanists. So
yes.
that's why, I mean, they literally have a Rothschilds Boulevard in Tel Aviv, Israel. Like, I'm
Wow.
not, this is all for people's choosing. I'm not making this stuff up. And that goes
Wow.
back to Lord Balfour and the declaration he wrote in 1917. And it was basically to the British, and the British fulfilling their promise to give them Palestine, which happened in 1948 and
Wow.
continue. There's other effective dates after that. But they've been tracking that to build that nation for them. The modern day nation of Israel, the political military Israel, has nothing to do with biblical Israel. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'll end up, period. Lots, period, period, period.
Yeah.
I know
Right.
that
Like,
offends people, but I don't care at this point.
well, with what you just laid out, see, once again, if anyone's taking offense, it's more important for that individual to take a second, look at the person in the mirror and ask, why am I taking offense? It's so crucial we humble ourselves. The fact is, it's really hard to hone in on pretty much any truths in this life. We're such defective beings. I mean, how many played along with this pandemic because some fear porn? It's
Yeah.
we're so defective and we're so flawed, but that's the beauty of this existence. And that's a beauty of Jesus Christ, our Savior, and giving us a way out of all of our mess on an individual level, but also shine more light on an example as to how we can overcome evil in this existence. I guess just to re-emphasize on humbling ourselves, because the point we're taking offense, that's like defective wiring that we've kind of been programmed, and generational curses, things of that nature. That's not doing anyone any good at all. It's been a minute since I actually had that conversation on people taking offense. I've had a clear way before of kind of navigating that to even me, like through my own life experience. I was victimizing myself, and basically it just was highlighting a level of my own laziness on not willing to do my due diligence. So just to take offense and point the finger and they're the problem when I'm the problem.
Yeah,
It's
like you said, humble themselves, and that's what I do with people when they say something that doesn't make sense, or I can see they're spewing whatever political talking point that their favorite team is saying at the moment, and it's pretty obvious. I always say, Well, what are you basing that on? Where did you get that
Mm,
opinion from? Where
right.
did you get that information? And they usually you can see their gears grinding, and they're like, "You're right. Where did I get it from?" And then if you
Mm,
corner them enough, sometimes they get defensive and say, "Well, that's it. That's what I believe, and I don't care what you say." And then
right.
the conversation's over. But usually
Yes.
when you say, what are you basing that on, or where are you getting that information? It does get most people that
Mm,
genuinely care and want to have a conversation or learn more. They do sit back and will question it. You may have planted a seed for further down the road too. Who knows?
I like that. Yeah, I
But
like that. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that could help us in our communications, which we so desperately need. Need to simmer things down and
yeah,
break those barriers.
because they go into these. A lot of people go in with that team mentality. They go into the conversations and they want a headbutt. They
Yeah.
want you to say what Team Red's saying. Well, I like Team Blue, and then I'm going to
Yeah.
argue with you about it. They're waiting for that debate. But when you cut them off in a different way and say, well, what are you basing that on? Or
Right.
where'd you get that information? It stumps a lot of people. Just you know what I mean. There's different ways to say it too, depending on what's going on, and you just feed off the conversation. But
And
it,
it's not about being right. I could care less. It's not about being right.
I
It's just
know it's ridiculous.
but it seems when you're running with a falsehood, right? That that more so tends to be the stance they're taking. Like, I'm right, you're wrong, you're a bigot, or this or that. It's just the root of these things. It's spiritual warfare. It's crazy. Well, Billy, you are a true warrior. You brought up the freedom fighter 1776. You're leading by example. I'm just humbled and very grateful for your time here. There's this petition. Where'd it go? Oh, right there.
You talking about the Declaration of Military Accountability?
Yes.
Correct. That was put out by Rob Green and Brad Miller the first of the year, and then we had 231 signatories with that signed on to say basically we're going to do everything in our power for the remaining of our lives to demand accountability.
Wow.
Or it speaks to the COVID crimes, but I'm working on military accountability in my eyes is military accountability. If it's illegal and unethical and immoral, and it's destroying humanity in whether it's a shot or a bomb, it's military accountability. It all should fit in there, and it does.
Right.
But that's what that military accountability is about.
So if any of the listeners haven't gone, because we mentioned this one before, if you haven't gone and checked it out, go to militaryaccountability.net, check it out, sign the petition. And that's just another call to action that's going to help on the momentum to fixing things around here. Do you have any other burning desires or calls to action for our listeners today, Billy?
Well, it's like you said, people just don't always know what to do, and I run through this all the time, and I'm sure you do. You sit back and you see stuff just keep happening. They keep destroying and allowing millions in the border. Drug overdoses, fentanyl crisis, endless foreign proxy wars where we're
Right.
killing endless amounts of people. We go on and on and on. A lot of people see it, but then they go back to picking up a beer and turn it on Netflix, right? They need to put down the bread and circus, and they need to get pissed. And I
Yes.
don't mean get pissed and pick up your boomstick and go, raging around town. There's a way to get pissed and have passion and then drive and find your legal and administrative avenues to start that action.
Right.
We have to do it as a much larger collective. It's not that there's not people doing it, but the way I see it at this point, it's not enough. And
It,
and and these traitors in Congress and Senate need to be held accountable.
yes. 100% agree. What has taken place on so many levels is nothing shy of treasonous, criminal, and I cannot believe that the people seem to just be, I mean, not everyone. We got a lot of warriors out there doing what we can, but this clearly is a table flipping moment. Let's freaking go. Let's flip some tables. And I know we mentioned on pre-show a lot of these conversations, you did find yourself often alone on a mountaintop, right? They're just, but luckily, more and more are waking up more and more, seeing things more and more, are sourcing their information and doing their due diligence, doing their research. And it's just important that we grow that backbone. We acknowledge the dire just reality as to how things are around us, because it's a numbers game. That's what it boils down to. And we must create proper momentum. Billy, it was my pleasure. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today and joining us. Check out the links. I'm inspired by Billy here. He truly is a warrior, man of God, a father, a husband, and he's leading by example. He's got a lot of admirable traits that, and you speak so eloquently. Like I got things I need to work on here as I'm talking with you. My goodness, I even learned a lot. So listeners, let's just send this as far and wide as we can. And be sure to check out our affiliations, support us. But most importantly, let's just get this message out and bring people into the light. Thank you so much. God bless you. Take care.